Hi everyone, it's Killshot from 99 Gaming's The Walking Dead mid-season finale. Carl had to die live debate. So it's been 24 hours. I know the emotions have been just running wild with everyone. Hopefully everybody had a chance just to take a deep breath, think about the story. We're going to go over several different topics tonight. I want to thank all of you once again for being here. We're going to do these streams every night. One thing I do want to say, hold the passion just a little bit. I see people, they're having debates, and this is a debate, but keep it as a respectable debate. Don't let the fire get in there. I'm going to try to do the best I can to sort of rationalize it. I know we did this a little bit late last night, and we'll let everybody just kind of come in, get their opinion, get their thoughts. A couple things I do want to announce is, once again, all this week we're going to be doing live streams Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we will find something to sort of ramp it up on Sunday night. I know that's been just kind of a key time for all of us, and sometime during the week, once we hit 70,000 subscribers, we're like 115 away or something. I'm hoping we hit that by midweek. If it is by Wednesday, we're going to do a 70,000 subscriber celebration. I got a couple things that I want to talk about. As I said before, there's going to be some controversial topics we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you a different perspective to look at things. I know a lot of times we watch these, it's all about our favorite character. Hey, let me tell you, you guys know, when Abraham went down last year, it was a little bit painful, but at the same time, I got over it because of the story. Glenn, as I said before, a little bit tougher. You guys also probably know I went back and binge watched Game of Thrones, and I have to tell you, one thing about Game of Thrones, when that happened with Ned, it confused me. I'm like, wow, he just died so fast, and I'm ready to wrap my story and all the plot and everything just going around there, and then I'm like, okay, no big deal. I move on from Ned. Now I got Rob, and then the Red Wedding happens, and I'm like, what? Really? I was just shocked for all of, like, I don't know, 24 hours because I was binge watching it. I went back, watched a couple more episodes. I'm good. So let me say this with Carl, and I did put the picture up there. I mean, it's a nice picture. I want you to have a little reminder of little cute Chandler growing up, watching the show. I like Carl's character. But let me tell you this, I like the writing of this episode more than it was great to me, and I know that's just one person's opinion. And I'm going to tell you why it had to happen, or at least my thought, and I'm going to read a few questions. And I also do want to go back and say one thing, because last night I was just kind of, searching through my brain, and then I had to watch episodes really late. I'm like, did I see this bite happen in episode number 1? No, it wasn't episode number 1. A couple people did mention this. It was, in fact, the scene with Sadiq where he fell down on top of the deer, and you can see when he fell on top of the deer that the zombies or the walkers were eating, one of the walkers came in front, one came over from the side, and at that moment you could see the look on his face, and then he stood up, and Sadiq was talking to him, and he was just very silent, and then he said, a little bit later, you're my responsibility now. But yeah, it was very obvious that that is where he got bit, and you saw the walker's head just come over from his right side, and just you didn't see the walker's face actually bite him, but you saw just Carl kind of close his eyes a little bit. He knew at that moment. So tough to go back and watch it, to research it, to talk about it, but we've had 24 hours. So, no, I'm not, I'm not changing it. Devin wants to change it to a picture of the bite mark. I will say this, that there is no coming back from it. So, you do have to know this. But I also want to ask this question, and we're going to talk about this later on in the week, because each night we're going to take a little different topic. Let me say that this played out to the benefit of Daryl, and to the benefit of stopping the war. That's really what you got to look at. If Carl would have died senselessly, if Negan would have just beat him down, or if something would have happened, I wouldn't have appreciated it as much. But the fact that Carl is going to be the reason that this war stops, and I believe that 100%, then there's a bigger purpose to it. All right, I'm going to read a couple comments here. James Gallego says, they killed Carl to keep Daryl. They will give Daryl Carl's story in the Whisper War. Well, part of it, if Negan would have killed Carl Rick would have held Daryl responsible. So let me tell you who I hold responsible for Carl's death, and partially I blame Rick. Now, you can disagree with that if you want. It's not going to be a popular opinion. We will talk about it a little bit more. But Carl is an adult. Carl was trying to help Sadiq, and here comes Rick in, shooting the gun, shooing Sadiq away, and because of that, Carl went out looking for Sadiq. If Rick would have approached that and let Carl kind of do his own thing and say, hey, Carl, what are you doing here? Who is this? Let's talk to him. But Rick's lack of trust and his shoot first and ask questions later really is this is a byproduct of that. And I agree with that. Scott says Rick was reckless. E. Beach says, I hold Gimple responsible. You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you holding Gimple responsible. I hold him responsible too, and I think it's terrific writing. So it's kind of like to each their own. What better way to be in a show and to die in an iconic way? Because it is gonna be iconic. Because give me other events that would have stopped this war, other than Carl's will. This is how powerful that I want you to. What was going to make Negan stop? And he hasn't stopped yet. Keep that in mind. Maggie dying wasn't going to make him stop. Negan has an attachment to Carl. And when Carl was willing to die, and those words, I mean, that's what Negan told Rick when they were in there. He said, your son was willing to die. The way you raised that kid. Now, when Negan finds out that Carl's going to die, it's going to affect him. So let me kind of throw some economy out there as well, because you're hearing stuff about Carl turning 18. There's rumors out there that they couldn't afford to pay Carl, or they couldn't afford to pay Chandler. Give me a break, guys. Come on. If you believe that, then go back and believe the spoiler video of Carl getting stabbed. AMC has cut budget from time to time. This is a show that makes $30 million per episode. It makes a boatload of cash. People are lining up to pay the money. It's not about paying Carl a couple $100,000 per episode. I mean, I just don't buy into that. I think that Robert Kirkman is taking some of his talents in a different direction toward Amazon, and the AMC team is going to go in a different story. And it makes sense. And here, I'll throw it out there. Give me some reasons. Give me some things to make this war stop. Or are we just going to have everybody kill each other until there's nobody left? So 1189, everybody dies. Maggie says, just survive somehow. Wasn't enough for Carl. Deidre, I don't agree. I don't think the war stops when Negan is dead. That's not going to stop Simon. Simon is as ruthless as Negan. This war stops when Negan makes it stop. A couple things I want to go back to is go back and watch Negan and his reactions to Carl when Carl was talking to him and saying, kill me and let's stop this. Negan almost looked like a general that didn't know how to motivate his troops anymore. It was, wait a minute, that's not something I thought of. This really could end. This really could stop. Yeah, but if this is tough. It's tough because some of you really need to be in the writer's position. If you kill Negan and you kill Simon and you kill everybody that we don't like in the show, you have no show. And if you want to develop the Whisperer War a little bit later on, and you might need some of these characters, you can't just be so... You can't just look at what's right in front of you. These groups at some point are going to have to coexist. Jesus has already started down that path. Rick, to a certain degree, has started down that path. Negan, to a certain degree, has started down that path. But they just can't all get on the same page at the same time. So, I'm going to give you guys, some of this may be known. I'm going to throw a couple spoilers out there that, well, these are reactions. I don't know how many people in the chat right now want some of the spoilers from the second half of the season. Because, I mean, there are some things that are known, but it might kind of disrupt what we're talking about with Carl. But let me just say, I would worry about Simon. Midge says, he didn't have to die. Gimple, I'm out. And the show is about Carl growing up. And we need both. Well, no, the show is not about Carl growing up. Maybe the comic book is about Carl growing up. The show is about the show. And we don't control the direction of the show. We watch the show and we enjoy the storyline and we enjoy what happens. And there's a lot of different things that are going to be entertaining about the show without Carl being there. Next season, you're going to miss Carl, but it's not, you're going to watch the second half of the season. Exactly. I see so much for Old Man Carl. No Old Man Carl. So Alex Ray says, the question is, who's going to take Carl's storyline? Alex, there is no Carl storyline. Carl died. It doesn't have to take the Carl storyline from the comic book. It can go its own separate direction. This is the point that needs to be ingrained. And I hate to say it. I can't say it any other way than saying it very direct. There are people who are diehard comic fans, and the comic has been a good guideline. But what if they take that script and just throw it to the side and build a completely different direction? There doesn't have to be a storyline. And I think that's part of the message. This message is twofold. One, they're saying that this show can go in a direction that we write it, in whatever direction that we want. And number two, we are going to memorialize and make this about more than just Carl's character. And Princess Felicia says it may be too early, but who is going to survive in the end? Maybe nobody survives in the end. So Justin says, wouldn't be surprised if Rick dies too. Now, here's where it does change a little bit, and I'll have to interject. This is a show, and it is a business. And as a business, There are some people they can rotate out and they can rotate people in. Now, you can tell the greatest story in the world, and if they thought it was going to bankrupt them, they would not have killed Carl. That's the reality. A story has to be told, but at the same time, these people make their paychecks off this show. And Rick's not ready to die. Neither is Daryl. Neither is Negan. So as long as you got some of your money makers up there now, it doesn't mean, and keep in mind, there's a barometer of popularity. They know how popular Michonne is. They know how popular Glenn was. But they also felt like they could remove Glenn and Daryl would fill a little bit of that void, because they're not going to have all the actors on film at exactly the same time. And if they didn't think that they could make the move for Carl, they wouldn't have done it. And that's why I think it's such good. I think the timing, personally, I think the timing was fine. A lot of people don't, because they're very attached to Carl. And I get it. I understand that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that people won't start getting attached to Dwight. It doesn't mean that people won't start getting attached to Jesus. So on and so forth. See, that is a great question. E-Beach, remind me of that 1 second. Wayne Green says, will Michonne die this season since her appearance of Old Man Rick is a flashback as well? That is an excellent question. We did talk about that, when the Red Eye Rick video, or we first did that, is that possibly Carl and Michonne die because Rick sees them at their current state, and he sees Judith a little bit older. So, in the second half of the season, I would doubt it, but I'm not putting it past them right now. Well, Lindsay, if he blindsided Chandler, welcome to the Andrea death, because they blindsided her as well. And, you know, Kel brings up a good point. Kel says, I'm more attached to Dwight than I was Carl. It's to each their own. So, you know, it's a person that's been with the show from the very beginning, but if it was Carol, we'd be sitting here having the same conversation. Why did they write Carol out? Why did they do that? Because it's a zombie apocalypse and people are going to die. And they didn't give him, in my opinion, they didn't give him some cheesy death where he just got ripped apart in the middle of nowhere. I mean, he got bit, and there's a story, and he's trying to help, and he made the comment that sometimes it's our jobs as kids to affect our parents, and I do think that his mission right now is to find a way for everyone to survive. Let's not underestimate what Carl has already done. Carl has already saved several people from Negan. He had an escape plan. He wasn't shooting down saviors. He got up, he made the speech, he was willing to sacrifice if he had to, but once they got out, he was able to get away, he was able to save more people. So he's already saved the group, which is epic in itself. And I think we lose track of that because Carl died. We don't want Carl to die, especially if we're emotionally attached to him. But let's start to think of Carl's accomplishments. He's already saved Sadiq. He's already saved the entire group. And he's not done. And I will say, and make that prediction, and many people are on board with that he will be the reason the war stops. He will be the reason that Rick does not kill Negan. So Servant Chris says, I'm more into a great story being told. And as I thought about it more and more, I'm trying to think of what can end this. And I know Deidre said if Negan dies. I don't agree. I don't agree that Negan dying is going to end the war. And if Rick dies, I think they just become minions to Negan again. So I thought the baby dying, if Judith died, you know, and that was a lot of the prediction. We talked, you know, right? Well, what if a baby dies and maybe that makes him retreat? To me, this was a little bit more powerful. There were a couple options, and I thought if Judith died, then Negan would pull back. That would make him rethink it. Carl leaves. But this scene where you got the group split, and Rick's biggest challenge is going to be dealing with the loss of his son, containing all the people that want to kill Negan, and leading both groups is just going to be, it's going to be hard to tell that story. You know what, I've seen 3 or 4 type this, that they feel bad for Chandler. First of all, don't feel bad for Chandler. I think Chandler was well compensated over the 9 years he was on the show, and I think he will be an acting superstar. You know, it'd be like saying, I feel bad for Hans Gruber who died in Die Hard. Of course, then he got another movie part, and another movie part, and another movie part. I mean, he has been on a show for 9 years. Don't feel bad for an actor who has survived for 9 years when other people have survived 2 years or 4 years or 5 years. He played the part. He played the part well. He's going to be very, he's going to go down in history, one of the greatest shows of all time, and he's going to be an actor on something else. I think he's going to be fine, everybody. You guys are feeling bad for this millionaire actor who's going to land on his feet and go somewhere else. I mean, move on. Get to the story. I know you can't do that in one day, but stop finding reasons just to you're like piling on and looking for more. And the reporting can't even get it right. We feel bad for Chandler because he's going to college. No, he's not going to college. He's actually releasing an album. Oh, he's not going to release an album. He was lied to and he was fired, and they were trying to save budget. There's a lot of information that surfaces out there, and just, you know, what's pure is the TV show. He said he didn't want to die. That's Jasmine Holmes. I feel bad for Chandler. He didn't want to die. Well, Glenn didn't want to die. And Abraham didn't want to die. And T-Dog didn't want to die. Morales didn't want to die. People, they die. Come on, guys. Really? We're kind of milking this just a little bit more. Robb Stark didn't want to die. Ned Stark didn't want to die. Most people that are on shows don't want to die. But it's necessary. Eric didn't want to die. Dale wanted to die, but then Dale didn't want to die. He wanted to leave the show, and then he changed his mind, and then they'd already written him off the show. So once we get through, I think, the emotional impact of what happened with Carl, everybody is going to kind of dig in and realize what's next for the show. So let's try to do a little bit of that so we can at least, we're not going to bring closure to it, but so we can at least get to the next step and what happens next. I think the group that we have right now, we got a few hundred people, and it's kind of split into several things. There's those who are just interested in the story. There's those that weren't very attached to Carl. There's those that feel bad for Carl, and then there's those that Carl was their favorite character, and it doesn't matter what you say. That it doesn't matter. They shouldn't have killed Carl. So basically, when you see that group and you realize that I got like 3 dislikes from the people because I didn't sympathize with Carl more. It's okay. I get it. But, I think at some point you're going to... I'm glad I didn't say Glenn and Abraham are dead. I'm not watching the show anymore. And some of the people actually in this room said that they're not going to watch the show anymore. And believe me, I know several of you who were in a stream and said, Glenn is dead, I'm not watching the show. Who wants to admit to that right now? Or do I need to start calling names? How many people in this room right now said, when Glenn dies, if they kill Glenn, I'm not watching the show? You'll see. You'll see a couple people, and then I don't know if everybody's going to admit it. All right, and then the follow-up to that, I'm just reading a few of the comments here. The follow-up was, why did they need to kill 2 people? They didn't need to kill 2 people. They had Abraham, why'd they go back and kill Glenn? I didn't like it. But what I realized about that is that even if I didn't agree with the writing, I still love the show. It's the best show on television. So, those of you that are really, really attached to Carl, I mean, like Carl's one of your favorite characters, in episode 9, when Carl finishes his last couple tasks and they bury Carl, how many of you are going to, the tears are going to flow? I mean, how many of you are just going to kind of, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that impact of Carl dying. Just type it in chat right now. When Rick is officially Red Eye Rick and he's repeating that, my mercy will prevail over my wrath, and he's reading Carl's notes and he has to bury him. I mean, that's going to be strong. It's going to be a lot, right? I see JB says, yeah. Gene Atkins says, I will. Deidre Perkins says, I'm going to be sad. Paris feels bad for Rick. Nikki. Golden Mom. Yep, Annie Hernandez, tears are going to flow. Most of the people in this room are going to. So there's another reason why they kill Carl. Is because the emotional attachment, because you feel something when it happens. You feel good when this group accomplishes something, and you feel the pain when they lose somebody. And that's what keeps bringing us back. So I'm not saying it's bad that you feel that way, but I'm saying that that emotional attachment to the show is why we won't stop watching the show. And it's why we'll sympathize, and we'll sympathize for Rick, and we'll grieve for Carl, and then we'll get mad, and then we'll want revenge. And then the next week when they're after revenge, the show's going to hype it up, and we're going to be right there with them. And then they're going to give us that moral dilemma. So this show is a balance between living in the success of the people, feeling the loss when you lose somebody, and being on the edge of is this the right thing to do, or what are my consequences, or is this the wrong thing to do, and what's the consequence? And if these type of things didn't happen, look at all the people in the zombie apocalypse unrealistically that would still be alive. Carl, Abraham, Glenn, Dale, Andrea. And I'm sorry, but if you keep characters, you can't introduce the new characters. And Jesus will have a role, Dwight will have a role, Cindy will have a role, and they will become... And I'm going to tell you one thing, Cindy's going to be a badass on this show. How many people miss Sasha? Sasha was great, right? But then you lose Sasha, and then Dwight and Jesus get a little bit more airtime. You lose Carl, and now, look, Cindy ain't going to be Carl, but you are going to start to see some of these other characters really step up. So a lot of people here miss Sasha, but now you're going to miss somebody else. I mean, that's the reality. It's like Sasha was a lot of people's favorites, but you're still watching the show. So, you know, I know a couple of these live streams, they're going to be me sort of trying to negotiate to get everybody back to an emotional state where we're ready to move to the next part of the story. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy with a big crowd, and the first thing is you really got to look and how the crowd is divided. And I knew Darkest Shadows just giving me hell about the title. I saw you. I saw that. But I also had to put enough of a controversial title up to get people sort of thinking in that direction. It was intentional. I wasn't totally trying to be the villain, but I want you guys to understand I sympathize with the people that are really attached to Carl, but I'm able to look at all four different perspectives. So I wanted to have a Carl had to die debate. Did he have to die? Maybe, maybe not. Some of you may say no, he didn't. Some people are going to say yes, he did. I think I can't think of another way. And I don't know if the writers could think of another way. I mean, I'm sure it's out there. I guess if we think long enough, this could have happened, this could have happened. But why not give the iconic moment to somebody that deserves it? To somebody that's worked on the show for so long, for somebody that's been such a part of those memories. And I also intentionally picked a picture of young Carl. Because, you know, if you go back and you binge watch some of these things, there's some good moments. And that's the part you're going to miss, but at the same time, he kind of took charge and led the group. I really liked last year when the scavengers were there, and he was the first person to turn and shoot one of them. At that point, I'm like, this dude is, he could really direct and lead, and I think that's the part that I would miss from his character, but I also realize that it's going to take something really, really big to get all these egos to stop fighting each other. To get Negan to stop knocking on the door. To get Rick, I mean, if they are going to develop a story versus the Whisperers, there's going to have to be some mending at some point. It's like, Michael's like, eating that bucket of pudding. So Charles Thomas, there you go. Kills my favorite characters were Herschel, Sasha, Glenn, Carl, Lori, and Abraham. That's a lot of favorite characters, and yep, they're all dead. And there you go. Rebecca says, all I got to say is Maggie gets the badass award from me. See, there you go, right? It's tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about how the group was trapped. And I thought, you know what, 20 minutes in, I thought there is no way out. But they are in a better place now than they were halfway through the show. Halfway through the show, Negan's knocking on the gate. They got no way out. Gavin took over the kingdom. They got no way out. Maggie completely surrounded. No way out. Potentially Jerry's going to die. And yes, they did lose Neil. But Carl got the group out. Ezekiel got the group out. Maggie had to play along a little bit. But they lost Carl. They might lose Ezekiel. It's not without cost. Sarah D says Morgan and Carol will save the kingdom. I hope so. I hope they save Ezekiel too. All right, we're going to read a couple more comments and we're going to wind this down. We're about 37 minutes in, and I knew it was still going to be a lot of emotion sort of running because, I mean, one, it just happened 24 hours ago, and then, you know, people are going to watch different videos and read different periodicals of the reason and the whys and the hows, and you know, we got a couple of months before we kick this thing off again, so there's definitely going to be just a little bit more that will shift the topics. But tonight, definitely wanted to throw it out there, talk about Carl a little bit. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about Rick's role as well. So be prepared for that. And with that, I'm just reading a couple comments here. Just watch the closing scene again. You can tell the cast knows what was up with Carl. It is better the second time. You know, it might help. I mean, if you guys want to... if you guys want to kind of watch it again and sort of get desensitized, maybe desensitized to it, Edna Tella says, kills made me feel so much better about the whole Carl situation. Great points were made. And you know what, Edna, if I can kind of rationalize that to 50 people or 60 people or 100 people, it's it doesn't make me like the character any less. I like Carl, and I like the actor, and I like the role he plays. But, you know, sometimes in these situations it's going to be next person up, because it really is what makes it real. I mean, loss is real in the zombie apocalypse, and we're never going to like it. Thank you so much, Lenore. Appreciate that. Maggie cried on the second viewing. All right, well, then you might have to watch it a few more times. Isaac, Kills, how do you think Rick will act? I think he's upset. I mean, there's no doubt he still has that vengeance, but that memory is going to stick with him. Good point, Westwick. Dale's death, and then this point you sort of expect. You know what? Even though I expected it, the hardest, and still to this day, and you guys know this, we talked about it multiple times, the hardest death I've ever had to watch on this was Glenn. It was such an emotional episode, and you know, right after Abraham gave the peace sign, I was like, okay, I'm through it. You know, they got what they wanted, now what's next? And then just Glenn just caught me completely. I knew Glenn was going to die. I just didn't know. I didn't want to believe exactly how it was going to happen. All right, everybody, we're going to wind this down. One thing that I do want to say, first of all, once again, thanks to everybody. Appreciate just all the debate, all the chat, all the comments, the interaction. You guys can see all the stream that's going along the side. Just a lot of passion with this. More dislikes in this video than any video we've done in the last 2 months. So, there's some Carl fans, and I think sometimes you just got to throw a very controversial title up there to get people just to kind of get it all out. So if they're mad at me, let them be mad at me a little bit, and then they'll come back to the show. Those of you that are not unhappy right now, slap the like button so we can balance this out a little bit. I'll try not to be offended. I appreciate everybody's going to be here. And also, the last couple days, I'm trying to do as many shout-outs as we can. We got a lot of new subscribers. Last night we probably had 800-900 people. There's no way I can do that many shout-outs. So definitely it's not to overlook anybody or to offend anybody in the streams. It's just physically impossible. I'd have you guys here for an extra 20 minutes just doing the shout-outs. They are random. I will pick a couple people. I'll try to do as many as I can. If I miss you, just when the video goes live, just leave me a reminder and say, hey, Kills, you haven't shouted me out in a couple videos, and I'll get to it. But it is just, the screen is going a little bit nuts, and I'll try to, but just know this, if I don't give you a shout out in a video, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate you, that I don't welcome you, that I don't want you here. Just don't be offended by it. It's we got a great big family, and if I don't catch you in the next one, I'll try to get you in the next one. Thank you, everybody. If you're brand new, subscribe. We're getting so close to I'm so proud of this group. I mean, a lot of you guys have been here since 2,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers. And all of the Walking Dead fans, all of you built this thing up to almost 70,000 people. That just completely blows my mind. Unbelievable that just the interaction. And a lot of times we get together and we disagree on some stuff, but we get back together and there'll be some stuff that we agree on. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate everything that you guys do. Type a quick 999. Let me give some shout outs to the people in the house. And I'll see y'all tomorrow night at 9:30. So I want to say thank you to all my moderators. I want to say thank you to Joanna Karpowicz, Tobin McLeod, Annie Hernandez, Mr. Leahy, AJ Jepson, Isaac Armenta, Clifford Bateau. I'm trying there, Clifton. Got my Hippo in the house. What's up, Hippo? Rock Calvin, good to see you. Deidre Perkins, absolutely, you get a shout out. Thank you so much. Appreciate your interaction, your insight. And we don't always agree, but it's fun. We have healthy debate. Edna Tellis, thank you so much. Glad it helped a little bit. Whitney, good to see you, Whitney. Eric Bennett. Wayne, what's up, Wayne? Also, Shanny D, a.k.a. Little Michonne. Walani. Jack Mann, what's going on? Raiden Roach. Raiden Roach, my favorite is always going to be Abraham. Love me some Abraham. Sandra Wiley, thanks so much. Angela McMillan, appreciate you being here. Melinda, thank you, Melinda. Salem Blue. Casey F. Wayne Green, what's up, Wayne? Thanks, man. Master of None, what's up, man? Who else we got here? Donnie Galente, Sherry Pavia. Villar, good to see you. Derek Postel, thanks, man. Trev Heath, kicks her life. Six Side Sports, thanks for being here. Nerd Life. Thank you, Princess Priscilla. Appreciate you being here. Glenda Batista. Glenda, thank you for being here. And I've seen you've been very active in some of the comments on some of the other videos, so I appreciate that as well. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Josh Nagaski. What's up, Josh? Thanks for being here. Michael Diaz as well. Also, I said the moderators, but specifically also Steph the Cuervo Queen, Kelsa Smile, Emmy Desiree Bacon, Tommy, the sweet-ass enforcer McCandless. Thank you, Lindsay Luke. Appreciate you being here. And thanks for the comments. And who else we got? Mecky? Denise? Mecky? Jenna Crockett, thank you. You made it, and we are winding it down. But thank you for popping in. Nick Anderson, thanks, man. Captain Spaulding. JC and Kali. Jason Capola, thanks, Jason. My 47, what's up, man? Harley Quinn, thank you. Good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Also want to give a special shout out to just last week, all the people making super chat donations, and also a lot of people in this room, and I'll go through them in some of the videos, are Patreon supporters. So thank you so much. You know who you are. And you guys look in the closing credits, a lot of the videos, you'll see the Patreon supporters listed there as well too. So thank you so much. Sarah D, thank you for being here. Mr. Midnight. I'm trying to get as many shout-outs as I can tonight. So Green Lantern, thanks for being here. E-Beach, good thought out comments. Appreciate that. Hopefully, you know, we got some things ironed out. We'll see. I think the second half of the season, we'll see which storylines are going to take place. Thank you so much, Ant Boy. Appreciate you being here. Venom Joker 23. There's your shout out. You got it, man. Shannon Brown, thank you for being here. Sheila Beasley. Devin McNamara. Brooke Wright. What's up, Sharp Inc? Sir Kicks a lot. It was not a human bite. It was a walker bite. Check the scene with Sadiq where he fell on top of the deer. You'll see it. All right, everybody, we're going to wind this down. If I missed you in a shout out, just catch me on the next video. Make sure when this video goes live in about 10-15 minutes, get over there, leave some comments. And once again, as a reminder, we will be back doing this all over again tomorrow night at 9:30. So thank you so much. And there'll be a brand new topic that'll be a little less controversial, hopefully, than just Carl. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Peace.